Mashujaa hoye! Kwanza mimi nataka tuwapigie makofi wale waimbaji waliotuimbia hapa, walifanya kazi mzuri sana. We celebrate our artists. We celebrate those who have made presentation to us. It was quite a feat, and I could see a lot of science behind the presentation and the performance that they showed. Let me also take this very early opportunity to thank God for making the child of a simple Kenyan to be the president of Kenya. Let me take this opportunity to thank the millions of Kenyans who woke up early, lined up for many hours to vote for me and to vote for all the leaders that are today elected in the Republic of Kenya. My very deep and sincere gratitude to the millions of Kenyans who have elected us into office. Let me state at this very early opportunity that all of us, elected, nominated, and appointed, are today the privileged, because the people of Kenya have bestowed on us the challenge of leading our country into the new horizon. Let me also say that those we have been elected on both sides of the divide, together we must shepherd this country into a safe and prosperous future. I want to state that I will work with all the leaders who have been elected in all formations for the good and for the prosperity of our country. I am tremendously privileged to join you and our visitors today as we commemorate the 59th anniversary of Mashujaa Day. It is with great humility that I preside over this year's celebration for the first time as president, and I am humbled and grateful for the honor to be your leader. We solemnly observe this important day every year in order for us to reflect upon where we have come from as a nation. We mark this day to consider the troubled road we trod through, the sorrowful wilderness of cruel colonial injustice, and the price that we paid in blood, toil, anguish, and death for us to be a free people. We take this opportunity to also celebrate the histories of our heroes and heroines who sacrificed valiantly in our freedom struggle. Their character, and most particularly and importantly, the values and principles which inspired, sustained, and vindicated them so that we may emulate them by leading lives worthy of their sacrifice. We also ask ourselves today, what must we do to transmit this noble history and ensure that future generations appreciate us, not only as worthy heirs of our illustrious ancestors, but also as skillful stewards of their heritage. We do this in pursuit of a solemn covenant proclaimed in the preamble of our Constitution, and I quote, that we, the people of Kenya, shall honor those who heroically struggled to bring freedom and justice to our land by adopting, enacting, and giving the Constitution to ourselves and to our future generations, end of quote. Our Constitution articulates a vision of Kenya our heroes and heroines would have approved, a Kenya worth fighting for and worth paying the ultimate price for. It is their legacy to us, and it sets the stage for us to continue their patriotic work in that noble spirit that roused the first freedom fighters to resist colonial rule and their successors to reject post-colonial repression. Our heroes and heroines were neither elected nor appointed. They were not sponsored and they were not funded. They had no offices or budgets. They were ordinary people invested in the struggle to make good their unwavering belief that all people are equal and all deserve to live in freedom. People of all walks of life, subsistence farmers and traders, clerks and former soldiers, teachers and their learners, preachers and their congregations, drivers, cooks, and farm workers ran away to the forest, armed with nothing but the conviction that a more just way of life is possible and that it is worth fighting for. The legacy of independence is the heroic achievement of value-driven, bottom-up heroism. The people were distinguished by their unity and commitment to selfless endeavor, determination, patriotism, and an unyielding sense of justice. Every time we have come together, we have accomplished major feats. That is why, as a nation, we are exhausted by the national anthem, and I quote, "Let one and all arise with hearts both strong and true," end of quote. Our Constitution, the People's Sovereign Charter, is an instrument of collective memory. It proscribes tyranny, marginalization, and oppression, provides institutional means to dismantle injustice and eradicate inequality, and gives us an opportunity to expand freedom and actualize rights. It also defines human well-being to be the reason for individual and collective action, as well as objects of the totality of our national enterprise. We are united in common endeavor with those who came before us and did so much for our country. We may define ourselves as a nation proudly standing on the foundation of the Constitution, united in pursuit of the well-being of every citizen. The principal reason for promulgating our Constitution then was to inscribe the values which animated our history of accomplishments and to project them in a manner that resonates across generations. The national values and principles of governance set out in Article 10 form the soul of this dispensation. They define the parameters of patriotism, exemplary service, selfless sacrifice, and profiles us in terms of who we are and who we ought to be, individually and as a nation. We can and we must employ these values as beacons for identifying people whose contribution honor the memory of our heroes and heroines and bring greatness to our nation. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to direct our focus on the work that each one of us does to understand how we contribute to our individual well-being as well as that of our communities and our nation. It is this understanding we must take into account that individuals make up the greater national family, and that Kenya's stature and splendor is always greater than the sum total of our individual efforts or community endeavors. Similarly, our national capacity determines the extent of opportunities all Kenyans have to pursue and attain their aspirations. What I'm saying is that regardless of the type and scale of your pursuit, every contribution matters. And regardless of our walk of life, our work matters, our intentions matter, our thoughts matter, because we all matter and every hustle matters. I congratulate every citizen for their part in ensuring that the last general election was peaceful. I know of attempts at division, disunity, confusion, and even some who did everything in their power to entice and pressure our people to engage in criminal activity. But I also know that despite a competitive campaign period characterized by intense rivalry, Kenyans resolved in unison to remain peaceful, united, and compassionate. We set a new standard for ourselves: issue-based campaigns, transparent elections, and a peaceful outcome. I salute all Kenyans who set out every day, everywhere, doing ordinary things in inspired and extraordinary ways to fend for themselves and their families, thereby keeping our country going. I commend those whose work involves service to others. I celebrate those who volunteer and give, expecting nothing in return. Yet, they serve selflessly. From the farmers who feed our nation to the drivers who connect all parts of our country by conveying people and goods, educators who impart knowledge to our infants in kindergartens, children in schools, and youth in tertiary institutions, medical staff in wards and in fields and training institutions, workers in quarries and construction sites, artisans on the side streets, in their small sheds and in large workshops, traders on the side streets in rural and urban markets, and all the way to the Nairobi Security Exchange. Professionals who give their best in every sector of national endeavor, and our men and women in uniform, whose bravery and commitment continues to set the gold standard for sterling devotion to our flag. This nation salutes your service and celebrates your contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, because of the contribution of Kenyans elsewhere, our country continues to make great strides towards socio-economic transformation, shared prosperity, and enhanced well-being for our nation. In the East and Horn of Africa, the larger Africa continent, and globally, this nation expresses our values with greater clarity, and the state projects our aspirations more emphatically. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to lay the foundation for our future. Agriculture, as the lead sector to the economic transformation of our country, is the place to start, owing to its potential for high and quick returns on investment. But the situation in the country is wanting, and we have a severe food shortage as a result of prolonged drought in Kenya and the larger Horn of Africa region, the worst in nearly half a century, with 3 years of consecutive failed rain. Coupled with this are the extremely high global fertilizer prices. Our government's initial intervention to mitigate these challenges has been to step up food supply in northern Kenya and other regions and ensure better coordination between government and development partners. And I want to thank my deputy for being an able connector between these partners. We thank our partners for their input that has gone a long way in relieving this dire situation. World fertilizer prices have more than doubled in the past 2 years since COVID-19. The prices were passed on to farmers and the cost skyrocketed to more than 7,000 for a 50-kilogram bag. This had a huge impact on productivity of farmers last year. For example, maize production suffered a deficit of 10 million bags. Our government's first intervention to address the fertilizer challenge and make it available to counties and regions that plant in the short rains was to import 1.5 million 50-kilogram bags and distribute them at a lower price of Kenya shillings 3,500 per 50-kilogram bag. We have also made arrangements to make another 6 million bags of various types of fertilizer available for the long rain season. We have also asked county governments to work with us on the last mile delivery to centers close to farmers so that fertilizer can be easily accessible. These, however, are short-term measures, and we have to take very bold steps to end the perpetual cycle of hunger and dependency on rain-fed agriculture. We must eradicate hunger in our country in the shortest time possible. To do this, we have the following plan. We have to increase agricultural productivity as a first step. We will support all farmers to access quality inputs such as seeds, fertilizer, and pesticides, among others, and also ensure that our farmers have access to extension services in order to improve farming skills. In the short term, we will continue with the fertilizer import program. But in the medium term, the government plans to have fertilizer manufactured in partnership with EAC countries in our region. On seeds, our government will work with local research institutions and both public and private sectors to scale up seed multiplication for all crops. However, irrigation is the ultimate solution in guaranteeing food security in our country. In 2017, the government set out to build 57 dams to harness water for irrigation and domestic use. Many did not even start. Few are complete, while the rest are ongoing. The huge capital outlay required for dam construction in the context of competing budgetary priorities poses a huge challenge to this program. And to address this challenge, we are working on innovative investment mechanisms through public-private partnership to construct at least 100 dams. Consequently, it would be possible to progressively irrigate the 3 million acres already identified as irrigable land. In the next 3 years, the government plans to double the land under irrigation to 1.4 million acres. Of this, 200,000 acres will be under rice irrigation and 500,000 under other food crops. Rice production in Bunyala, the Tana Delta, Rahole in Garissa, Mwea and Ahero will take priority as these are areas that have already mechanisms for us to upscale. Our dairy farmers struggle with the high cost of feed and challenges of storage, preservation of milk, and access to markets. To assure them that they are on our priority list, we have taken immediate steps to reinstate the stalled milk coolers program, and the distribution of 650 milk coolers will resume shortly. In our plan, we have identified dairy and livestock economy as subsectors with the quickest economic turnaround time, and we will become key drivers, and they will become key drivers in improving food security, creating jobs, and boosting our exports. We have equally committed to close the housing gap, which stands at 2 million units as at now. Our target is to increase the supply fourfold, from 50,000 units every year to 200,000 units every successive year. Already, 2,592 units have been completed, 40,000 are under construction, and over 500 units that require financial backstopping and funding for bulk infrastructure are now being worked on and are in the pipeline. I am happy to report today that the interest in the housing sector has grown immensely, and that many private investors, including pension funds, have submitted proposals on the housing projects they would like to invest in. We will work together on these projects to facilitate their realization. It is clear from engagements with investors that the government needs to evolve from being a mere enabler to becoming a sponsor of major projects. Not only will we provide land and bulk infrastructure for our housing program, but I will personally take charge of the process to unlock the challenges that inhibit investment. For instance, VAT exemption on inputs has been enacted to lower the cost of construction, but its implementation has been curtailed by delays in approving applications for VAT refunds. As a result, developers pay VAT, but the cost saving is not enjoyed by the end buyers. Government will resolve such issues with the urgency required. Ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize that the housing agenda is not just about four walls and a roof. The demand for affordable housing is an opportunity to create jobs and stimulate the economy. Our manufacturing sector, which already supplies many products in the construction industry, will have expanded business opportunities, and other relevant sectors will also benefit from this endeavor. Other housing inputs, such as doors, windows, gates, and hinges, will be made by our Jua Kali industry. We are designing the program in a way that will upgrade and support Jua Kali by linking it to our technical and vocational institutions. In the end, we expect enterprises that produce housing products to emerge and expand, creating jobs and wealth for hustlers, making our housing plan truly transformational from bottom up. We want, ladies and gentlemen, to create the experience of hardworking Kenyans like John Ochieng, who is present here as one of my guests today. I met him 2 days ago when I handed over keys to new homeowners in Ongata Rongai, Kajiado County, under the Affordable Housing Scheme. Ochieng began working as a carpenter in that housing project when it began 2 years ago. Then, home ownership to him was a mere dream. 2 years later, he owns an apartment in the same estate he helped to build as a carpenter. Given that there are developments today that cater for housing needs for ordinary Kenyans like John, I am convinced that it is possible to provide quality, affordable housing for rent and sale, and Ochieng's story will be replicated multiple times over throughout the country. We therefore proceed with confidence that we will provide quality climate-smart housing that Kenyans can buy with mortgages for as low as 5,000 shillings a month to be made available through various home financing arrangements. Next week on Tuesday, I will break ground in this same constituency at the Kibera Soweto B in Nairobi for a housing project which will deliver thousands of social housing units. Going forward, we intend to collaborate with county governments to achieve a target of at least 5,000 units in every county. Counties with larger metropolitan areas have a greater opportunity and can target as many as 50,000 units, since as demand is higher due to population density in those counties. We have asked counties to identify land. We will provide infrastructure. We will put the roads. We will put the sewage system. We will connect water and electricity. And we will get developers who will develop the houses, and eventually we will get the resources for mortgage for homeowners to own units across our nation. Fellow Kenyans, access to credit is a stimulant that invigorates the economy. However, high interest rates crowd out the private sector, and especially the small and medium enterprises. Our commitment on affordable credit was at the heart of the Kenya Kwanza election campaign. Already, expectations are very high across the country on our promise to provide a fund that will offer affordable credit to those at the bottom of the pyramid. I am aware that the most significant question in the streets today, in border parking lots and fresh produce markets, is when will the Hustler Fund become operational? And I want to tell them I have an answer for you today. Even before the fund is set up, we have made several interventions to make credit accessible. Safaricom, and I want to thank them, and their financial partners have brought down the cost of Fuliza by reducing interest rates by 50%. As part of that agreement, 4 million borrowers who had been blacklisted will be freed from the yoke of Credit Reference Bureau in the coming days. We have also secured an agreement with CRBs that they will abandon the punitive penalty of blacklisting borrowers and move to a credit scoring system that makes borrowers eligible for credit even as they work to improve their credit worthiness. As a result, no citizen will be excluded from the credit system. They will therefore be eligible to access credit as they work their way into paying their loans. On the Hustler Fund, there are 3 crucial issues. Credit products will be available under the Hustler Fund to small businesses on digital platforms at affordable rates. Affordable rates being single-digit rates to individuals through chamas, groups, SACCOs, and cooperatives. All borrowers in this platform will not only access affordable credit, but they will also participate in short-term saving plan and long-term pension program. Every saving made by borrowers on this platform will be matched by the government of Kenya on a 2-to-1 ratio to a level to be determined by the program. And I will launch this fund credit and savings product on the 1st of December this year. Health is front and center of socio-economic development. The failure of a health system undermines prosperity. Kenyan families spend a total of 150 billion in out-of-pocket expenditure on health services a year, mobilized from various sources including Harambes, WhatsApp and M-Pesa groups, loans, sale of land and other assets to pay hospital bills for loved ones. Also, many small businesses fail when owners fall ill and cannot work or divert money to pay medical expenses. It is no wonder, then, that it is commonly said that most families and individuals in Kenya are one illness away from poverty. 1 million Kenyans sink into poverty every year because of medical expenses. We want to lift, and we must, this punitive burden from the shoulders of Kenyans and their businesses through our universal health care plan. The plan is to revitalize primary health care by laying more emphasis on preventive and promotive strategies. Many critical health illnesses, including cancer, heart complications, kidney failure, and hypertension, can be detected and addressed at this level without the need for hospital visit or admission. Our health reform commitment is therefore threefold. In partnership with county governments, we will mainstream community health workers and make them the foundation of our health system. Reforming the National Health Insurance Fund is a necessary imperative. Progress has been made in enrolling more members, and in the last 10 years, 12 million Kenyans have joined the fund. The challenge, however, is that the NHIF is an occupational scheme that is tailored for salaried people on payroll in public and private sector, and not the social insurance scheme it ought to be. We shall change the contribution structure from an individual contributory scheme to a household contributory model. We intend to address the challenges of inadequate human resources in our public hospitals and the poor industrial relations between health professionals and our county governments. We are particularly committed to the professional development of our health workers, and I take this opportunity to assure our health workers across the board that we have listened to them and we will propose ways in collaboration with county governments of resolving all outstanding issues. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is a strong leader in the information and communication, including technology space. We are the proud regional and continental hub of innovation. We have the appropriate policy framework, constitutionally protected freedoms of expression, media, information, and communication to dominate the creative art and entertainment arena. Our young people have consistently shown robust interest in this field and are engaged on various platforms, generating captivating content that is appreciated globally and regionally. There is tremendous potential for our country to become a global leader, employ hundreds of thousands of young people, and generate immense wealth if we facilitate the young people to plug into the global digital economy. To achieve these purposes, the government is committed to invest in the digital superhighway and the creative economy, which will be enablers of transformation, productivity, and overall competitiveness. Over the next 5 years, the government will ensure universal broadband availability through the rollout of connectivity throughout the country. The laying of an additional 100,000 kilometers of national fiber optic network is expected to deliver this target, and already we are in discussion with the players in that sector. Government services shall be made available throughout the country at greater convenience to citizens through digitization and automation of all critical government processes, with a view to bringing at least 80% of government services online. Moreover, to bring more Kenyans, especially the youth, online for business, learning, entertainment, and socialization, the government intends to take measures to bring down the cost of calls and data. This initiative converges with the efforts to boost the creative economy and scale up cultural production and the arts industry. Our government is also committed to the establishment of more art and culture infrastructure, including theaters, music auditoriums, and galleries, and extensive refurbishing of facilities to expand space for artistic and cultural expression and production. The government is also firmly committed in investing in the robust delivery of 5 pillars of our plan for socio-economic transformation. This investment is undertaken in full recognition of our national values and principles of governance, as well as broader national interests and goals. They include policy and legislative interventions, regulatory interventions, our national security, justice, law and order, and our education. Ladies and gentlemen, there are parts of this country where personal safety and security are precarious and life expectancy is low. Poverty and the cost of living are high because markets and supply chains have been disrupted or threatened by insecurity in these areas. The well-being of residents in these areas is as paramount as that of every other citizen in Kenya. They too deserve to live and work in safety and dignity and to pursue happiness without let or hindrance. And yet, terrorists, bandits, cattle rustlers, and all manner of violent criminals have held them back, extinguishing or deferring for far too long too many hopes and dreams as the rest of the country makes progress. It is time for this lawlessness to stop, and stop for good. Our government has undertaken necessary personnel realignment in the security services to facilitate the rapid achievement of our objectives in this sector. On my first day in office, I executed the instruments to actualize the financial autonomy of the National Police Service and have given the necessary directives to enable it rapidly achieve national security strategic objectives. These actions extend to the facilitation of the Director of Criminal Investigations to expeditiously resolve investigations to a standard that can support effective prosecution and secure convictions. The independence of the National Police Service is essential for its institutional credibility and efficiency, citizen safety and welfare, and effective maintenance of law and order. A professional police service fosters harmonious relations with citizens and communities, cannot be weaponized in pursuit of divisive or partisan agenda, and can never resort to disastrous policies like extrajudicial murder as part of policing. I believe we can keep this country safe and secure without tormenting our people. We can efficiently and effectively suppress crime, monitor and disrupt and apprehend criminals without abducting, torturing, killing, or causing citizens to disappear. It is time to retire these terrible tactics and professionalize our criminal justice system. That is why my government is taking strong measures to facilitate the enhancement of capacities along the entire security chain. I have directed that immediate measures be undertaken to disband the Special Services Unit in the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, and with urgency, investigations must be commenced so that those found culpable are held to account. There must also be robust mechanisms throughout the police service to maintain high professional standards, scrupulous adherence to the rule of law, accountability for actions and decisions, and operational transparency. At the terminal end of this chain, the government has also undertaken its obligations to observe judicial independence while actualizing the judiciary fund, enhancing budgetary allocation to enable it to invest in infrastructure and facilitate the appointment of more judges, to expand access to justice. Effective deterrence of crime requires robust prosecution, while economic efficiency, investor confidence, and competitiveness all depend on effective dispute resolution. A well-resourced, independent, impartial, and thoroughly professional judiciary is indispensable for good governance, law and order, and is also essential for financial sustainability, transactional effectiveness, and business competitiveness. The institutional independence of the judiciary must be upheld at all times, and the independence of judges respected as the minimum gesture of the rule of law in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, the fight against corruption must be won. Our government intends to wage this fight and demonstrate its commitment to zero tolerance to corruption by making all public servants accountable and submit to the oversight of Parliament and other constitutionally mandated institutions. We are committed to the rule of law, fidelity to constitutional due process, and implementation of judicial decrees and orders. Most critically, under my administration, there shall be no interference with or any attempt to control, direct, or undermine independent institutions, including those in the justice, law, and order sector. The National Police Service, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Judiciary, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission shall perform their duties independently and professionally, and likewise subject themselves to oversight by appropriate agencies. This is our vision for ensuring that the war on corruption is not itself corrupted by inappropriate interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, our socio-economic transformation to be truly inclusive, we must empower all Kenyans, regardless of background, to effectively play their part by contributing to national building efforts and partaking of the dividends of shared prosperity. High quality and relevant education is vital in imparting the necessary skills and competencies to our learners from pre-primary to tertiary levels in order to enable citizens engage meaningfully with the world of the present and the world of the future. A week ago, we launched the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms to review all aspects of education in Kenya. Its findings and recommendations shall inform subsequent necessary interventions to ensure that Kenya delivers the caliber of education, skills, and training needed to successfully pursue sustainable development. As we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we are equally concerned about climate change and its impact on Kenya generally and our arid and semi-arid regions in particular. We will address the effects of this phenomenon as its ravaging effects at home and abroad. Our pastoralist communities have experienced scarcity of pasture due to prolonged drought, the worst in 40 years, and 3 years of absolute rain failure. As a result, we have lost 2.5 million heads of livestock owing to this very severe drought. Rising food prices have made an already bad situation worse. Elsewhere, communities in rural and urban areas across the country are equally struggling under the weight of high food prices and shortage of water. Without a doubt, climate change is complicating our roadmap towards socio-economic transformation and achievement of sustainable development goals. As we seek short-term measures to respond to the evolving situation, I have directed that a long-term and sustainable solution to the planetary challenges be put in place. The ultimate solution includes greening our country to more than 30% of tree cover by 2032. The central role forests play in addressing the effects of climate change has become more prominent now than ever, thanks to their unparalleled capacity to absorb, store carbon, and regulate climate. Of the 59.2 million hectares land in Kenya, only 5.2 hectares are under forest cover. The remaining 54 million hectares are largely in arid and semi-arid areas. The 10 counties with the highest forest cover are Nyeri, Lamu, Vihiga, Kirinyaga, Elgeyo Marakwet, Meru, Embu, Murang'a, Kilifi, and Nyandarua. On the reverse, the 10 counties with the lowest tree cover are Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Siaya, Migori, Busia, Machakos, Taita Taveta, and Uasin Gishu. I call upon the Council of Governors to facilitate more discussion to achieve parity in tree cover by using peer-to-peer learning and exchange of information. The government will champion the transformation of forestry and rangeland restoration to support the greening of Kenya so as to combat climate change. We are at the final stages of designing a special presidential forestry and rangeland restoration program. This effort is spearheaded by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, various experts and partners in government, UN organizations, NGOs, and the academia. The objective is to grow 5 billion trees in the next 5 years and an additional 10 billion trees by 2032. This will eventually lead to the rehabilitation and restoration of 10 million hectares in our 290 constituencies, as well as some specially selected ecosystems and water towers threatened by degradation and destruction. To achieve this ambitious plan, the government will continue to support efforts by the Kenya Forestry Research Institute, KEFRI, in high-quality seed production in their 18 seed centers across the country. Agroforestry and farming of avocados, mangoes, and macadamia will also open new value chains for our export market, creating green jobs in those sectors. I therefore urge all Kenyans to support this government's call to grow at least 15 billion trees in 10 years. To achieve this target, simple calculation shows that every Kenyan needs to grow at least 300 trees. The 50 million of us, we will be able to grow 15 billion trees. And I will tell the ministry concerned, the Ministry of Environment, to issue a small certificate for every Kenyan who completes his round of 300 trees. Restoration in the presidential program will be undertaken by youth and women groups, civil society, communities, and religious organizations, leveraging on private sector and government financing. To ensure sustainable funding, Kenya is developing policies and strategies to tap into the global carbon market opportunities accessed through carbon trading. Additionally, the government will secure and protect public forests, rehabilitate and restore all degraded water towers and other forest ecosystems across the country. We will work towards fencing all fragile water towers and other ecosystems to protect them from encroachment. To resolve the capacity constraints at the Kenya Forest Service, I have directed the immediate recruitment of an additional 2,700 forest rangers and 600 forest officers to augment our interventions in this sector. Shortly, I will also be inaugurating the Climate Change Council that will steer Kenya's climate action through stakeholder engagement coordinated in the presidency as required by the Climate Change Act of 2016. Under the program, we will start mobilizing finance from public and private, including multilateral sources, to fund the proposed activities. This is anchored on the United Nations goals and backed by the Tree Growing and Sustainable Forest Finance Management Program, supported by UN and other international institutions. The program also responds to Kenya's commitment to help reduce global greenhouse gas emissions articulated in various multilateral environmental agreements and the United Nations Decade of Action on Ecosystem Restoration. Kenya will rally the globe towards more ambitious climate change action in next month's 27th UN Climate Change Conference at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. In an increasingly interconnected world, ladies and gentlemen, our well-being depends on engagements with our neighbors, continental fraternity, and international partnerships. In all these areas, Kenya has continued to be a dependable ally, faithful friend, and effective partner, ever committed to a win-win bilateral as well as multilateral outcomes that achieve mutual gain for the benefit of humanity. In the East African community, the rigid territorial borders are firmly on their way out. As we move towards full integration, non-tariff barriers have come down and trade volumes are soaring. The community is becoming even more tightly connected with infrastructure systems crisscrossing the member countries. The possibility of an East African Federation is no longer a wild imagination or an idle dream. It is no longer a matter of if, it is a matter of when. In recent days, I have been to our sister countries in East Africa to take care of mutually beneficial regional business. In Ethiopia, we launched Safaricom Ethiopia Telecom's money business, which expanded Safaricom and M-Pesa regionally, and their footprint dispersing ICT innovation and deepening the revenue base of our company. Simultaneously, Safaricom becomes the largest foreign investor in Ethiopia and Kenya's biggest foreign investor abroad ever. The East African community has become a close-knit neighborhood, and everyone's well-being has become everybody's business. With this unity and integration, we will achieve much in our lifetime, and with these bonds of solidarity and fraternity, we shall establish an oasis of hope and infinite possibility that will be irresistible to the rest of the world. In the Horn of Africa, peace and security efforts continue to dominate our engagement. They are important components of a broader strategy to recover stability in what has become a truly rough neighborhood. Countering violent extremism, controlling the illegal movement of small arms, peace building, and peacekeeping initiatives will continue to dominate our future agenda. The conflict in Tigray region of Ethiopia, which according to reports from the Office of the United Nations Secretary General is escalating, is a great source of concern to our region. Kenya will continue to play its role by making such contributions as is required by the Africa Union-sponsored mediation efforts. The sooner hostilities cease and a face-to-face talks commence, the better for our region. The region is experiencing its 5th season of severely low rain due to climate change. As a result, mitigation strategies, resilience building initiatives, and climate change management programs have become urgent. The pressure on the capacity of regional states has never been greater. On the continental stage, we have sustained our Pan-African credentials since the dawn of Africa unity. That is why various frameworks of the African Union find expression in our domestic agenda. The AU's Agenda 2063, for example, is part of our economic development plan. Kenya is committed to the pursuit of trade-driven Pan-Africanism as the best means of rapidly delivering shared prosperity throughout our continent. As we open up our borders and expand the scope of collaboration beyond traditional economic blocs, the reality of a continental free market has become real. Kenya is a champion of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Beyond ratifying the instruments establishing it and domesticating its framework, Kenya has been a consistent participant in efforts to make this continental agreement a reality. We see this as a pathway that guarantees inclusive African economic growth and sustainable self-reliance. In turn, this will hasten our continent's post-pandemic recovery, enhance climate change resilience, and underpin stability in the face of multiple regional and global crises, including energy volatility. Our implementation strategy envisions Pan-African free trade as a vehicle for empowering small and medium enterprises. To signal this commitment, I recently flagged off a symbolic consignment of Ketepa tea to Ghana under the Guided Trading Initiative. Trade between Ghana and Kenya is off to an admirable start, and several farms and traders in the two countries have undertaken brisk business involving exports of incinerators, sisal fiber, leather bags, fuel filters, beadworks, and baskets from our Juakali artisans. This points to the huge potential of trade across our continent. And the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is the framework and the mechanism for us to actualize this market. Beyond our continent, Kenya continues to pursue a robust policy of economic diplomacy. We are continuously aligning our strategic interests with the welfare of our people. Therefore, we are focused on finding opportunities for our people and deeper trade relations around the globe. We are receiving encouraging returns on our efforts. This week, our international port of Lamu scored a shining first with the export of livestock from northern Kenya to the Sultanate of Oman. This signals the opening up of tremendous opportunities for the pastoralists in our rangeland communities who deserve relief from the devastating losses of the ravaging drought. We also remain devoted to our strategic engagements with key development partners like the United States, which is now Kenya's premier trading partner, as well as the United Kingdom, which for a long time has held that position, the European Union, Middle Eastern nations, the Far East, including China and Japan, and indeed many other players in the world. Kenya's diplomacy is deliberately shifting into emerging opportunities. We are prepared to exploit the potential of the blue economy and the fast-evolving digital universe to position our young generation as competitive global players. Kenya's commitment to multilateralism is a fundamental plank of our diplomatic strategy and foreign policy. This has defined our international outlook since the advent of self-government and full sovereignty. We have hosted several multilateral institutions and aspire to receive more. Kenya has participated in many multilateral undertakings, including humanitarian missions, international peacekeeping, and pandemic responses. We join other nations of the Global South to advocate the democratization of global governance and to invest the multilateral system with higher moral imagination. We believe that global governance must reflect the values it claims to advance and protect. To effectively drive our diplomacy and international engagement, Kenya has unified and clarified its policy in our Vision 2030 and our government's 5-pillar plan to socio-economic transformation, the 5th East African Community Development Strategy, AU Agenda 2063, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The purpose of this alignment is to ensure that we forge a path for the achievement of our objectives of enhancing the well-being of ourselves and humanity. We have warned the international community about the global fertilizer shortage and the risk it poses to global food security. Whether we are speaking at the United Nations Environmental Programme in Nairobi or the UN Oceans Conference in Lisbon, our commitment to enhancing climate change responses is strong and vocal. Kenya advocates post-pandemic solidarity on a global scale to avert economic crisis in the wake of COVID-19 by mobilizing international partnerships and cooperation for recovery and resilience. This extends to the need to ease the debt burden of economically vulnerable developing countries and to afford them liquidity and fiscal space to manage shocks, enhance social investments, invest in climate change adaptation and mitigation, and address security needs and finance development. As an anchor state in the East Africa and the Horn, Kenya has sustained its robust efforts to achieve lasting peace and security. We have also used the opportunity to serve at the UN Security Council to give priority to regional peace, counter terrorism and violent extremism, support peace operations, and to further the climate change and security agenda. We consider these contributions to be critical in building a safe and peaceful world that is safe and conducive for human flourishing. Government efforts to affirm and project Kenya's stature globally has always been complemented by the contribution of Kenyan citizens who live and work in various parts of the world. This demonstrates the complementarity of state and citizen action and the inevitable alignment between patriotism and national well-being. We are all united in the quest for a Kenya we can all be proud to call home. Our diaspora continues to serve as Kenya's excellent ambassadors, along with our sports people and the Kenyans who continue to excel abroad in diverse fields. You make us proud, and in so doing, demonstrate the true spirit of Mashujaa. Kenya is a good neighbor, true friend, loyal ally, dependable partner, and hardworking member of the international community. We live up to its strong value system, fluently articulating the ideas of compassion, solidarity, justice, freedom, and sovereignty. As a nation, we project and amplify values and principles familiar to each one of us and which form the heart of our constitutional system. Greater fidelity to the Constitution and better compliance with its mandates and principles will only make us better citizens and worthy compatriots. It will make Kenya a stronger nation too. We therefore have a duty to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. The nation-building enterprise enlists citizens to recognize their stake in making and keeping Kenya great. Patriotism is a bottom-up affair. We are called upon to stand firmly on our values and strengths, and also strengthen our resolve to wage war on poverty and inequality by pursuing inclusive growth. Our aim is to remove all obstacles and bring down every barrier to progress. By celebrating our values, we honor our heroes, and every act of nation building is an expression of these values and a most appropriate remembrance of those who began our journey towards sovereignty, freedom, and happiness. This is a time for action. The opportunity to contribute to this historic project are limitless. It is time for us as citizens to play our part in making Kenya, the Kenya we imagine, come true, and to turn the nation we dream of into a living and a lived experience. This moment calls for the exercise of all our abilities, talents, gifts, skills, and strengths in pursuit of national as well as personal self-actualization. It demands that we demonstrate the patriotism of a new age and express the timeless values which unite us with our heroes and heroines. We are endowed with far greater capacity today than ever in our history to pursue and accomplish major feats. Our predecessors, with far modest means, nevertheless scored monumental triumphs. There is absolutely no ceiling to our dreams, no limit to our determination, and no barrier to our collective power. Nothing stops us from becoming what we wish to be, and nothing can stand in the way of our resolve to drive Kenya to its destiny of glory and abundance. I stand here, therefore, on this sacred ground, where we first raised our proud flag at the dawn of freedom, where we made a covenant to honor their glorious triumph and fine example by embracing their values and serving our nation, to rally every Kenyan to rise up. This is our moment to get up, work hard, take our chance, chase our dreams, knock on doors, and explore possibilities, because the horizon of our destiny is draped in the splendor of our vision, and before us lies potential of a magnitude never before imagined. It is all ours for the taking, and I know we are ready, for it is our time. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Mashujaa. May our heroes continue to inspire us, and may our national values ever remain the true north of our moral compass. God bless you, and God bless our great country, Kenya. Asanteni sana.